Good morning, aloha kako, it's Nikki. So today I'm coming to you with a term that I just coined in my mind called Shadow Man. And I want to explain what this archetype looks like. So Shadow Man can also be Shadow Woman. I'm going to use the term Shadow Man because this archetype has showed up in my life as a male. We all have masculine and feminine within. The goal in our spiritual evolution is to balance those equal masculine, equal feminine, undistorted. But we were also all born either female or male, and that is a whole nother topic on how that is morphing and weaving together in a new way. But for me, I identify as a woman, and this archetype has shown up for me in my life as a man. So I have termed him Shadow Man. So what is Shadow Man? So Shadow Man was built and constructed by a child. And this child was battered. This child was abused. This child was around unhealthy parents, unhealthy adults. This child most often was around addiction, was around alcohol use, drug use, immature adults, reacting, acting out, um, really just in their distortion, in their wounded self. So those children or those adults were also in their wounded child. So the Shadow Man was born, this beautiful, perfect being, made in the image of God, in perfection, in love, in just divine creation. And he was born or chosen to be born into a world where parents and adults were unsafe. And so, very quickly, this child, probably because it was heard as an infant when you really have no ability to take care of yourself and you are completely 100% dependent on those around you for care and for survival. So, this Shadow Man or Shadow Boy started as he grew up, having to learn how to navigate his environment. He had to learn, where am I in danger? When am I in danger? What is that animal species that is harming me or, possibility of attacking me? What is the predator look like, act like? What are their emotions? When do I know their emotions or their actions are going to cause me harm? And I'm going to note that. I'm going to note that those actions are when that predator is possibly going to harm me. And they just study this predator and they figure out a way to survive. Because we are species, animals, humans that are it's built in with us to survive. Natural instinct of survival mode. So these shadow boys, shadow girls, learn to survive by watching their predator, recognizing they're the prey, and learning to adapt to their situation. And so these shadow boys learn how to mask. They learn how to mask their emotions. They learn how to act out, people please, hide, whatever it takes to survive. So one of the key, or a few of the key reactions are people pleasing, wearing masks, basically becoming somebody that is a personality type or acting out actions that will not agitate the predator. And so the prey becomes smart. And it is built into their blueprint as you're building your blueprint from 1 to 7 of how to be a shadow man. And that life has predators, and I am the prey. And how do I act to avoid harm? And so, masks, people pleasing, avoidance, hiding, running. There's a lot of different ways that these shadow boys learn to adapt and survive. And these shadow boys grow up to be shadow men. And it is now intricately woven into their blueprint of how to survive and then how to act when they want a certain reaction from others around them. And they learn to hide themselves is the basic thing. It's very unfortunate that these beautiful souls made in the image of God have to learn to become somebody other than themselves. They never really were able to be themselves, to be accepted for themselves. And that looks different for everybody. You know, some boys were just simply not able to cry, not able to say this hurts, or um, that doesn't feel good, or show emotion. This can come from all kinds of different things, but a lot of boys, even to the degree of not being able to show their emotions because fathers don't believe you should show emotion, and so they learn to hide their emotions, and this is, I think, quite a rampant issue for men. And so they grow up to be these shadow men, and I see these shadow men everywhere. I see most men as shadow men. Women and men are a little bit different in how they navigate the evolutionary process. Women, because they're emotional beings and because they're intuitive beings, seem to have an easier time navigating the evolution of the soul, the journey that it takes. Walking through the fire over and over again to work through your woundings seems to be a little more adaptable journey to women than it is to men. So these shadow men become, these shadow boys become men, and this is how they operate. And in this, as they grow, because they are so pushed down, because they're so held within, and like kind of a prisoner within these rules that they've had to make for themselves to survive. They're imprisoned within those bars of these rules, and they're unable to show themselves. So they become these false selves. They've worn these masks for years and years and years. It is built in within their blueprint. It is woven into their fabric of who they are, these shadows and masks. Um, and oftentimes I don't even realize, I don't even think they realize or recognize that they are operating from this place. It isn't until they really dive into shadow work that these shadow boys even acknowledge that they live here. And so what I realize is that if you are unwilling to do the work, if you're unwilling to do shadow work, then you were the victim. A victim becomes the shadow man. The victim becomes the shadow woman. And when you become that shadow man or shadow woman, if you are unwilling as an adult to do the soul work, to do the shadow work, you become a victimizer. And that's just a fact. And that is something that all of us need to look at over and over and over again in our self-reflection, because to heal, it takes self-reflection. So you have to get very good at self-reflection, and you really have to have a very discerning eye upon yourself and look, and when you are being the shadow man or the shadow woman. So these shadow men are going around thinking, I've survived, I've had a hard life, I have this story, woe is me, and it is true. A lot of us have this story. all of these things are true, not to undermine the pain and suffering that we've gone. But it is your responsibility as an adult to do the shadow work, because you were the victim, and we have compassion over victims. We have been victims, but we do not have compassion over the victimizer. When you become the predator that you were trained to become, that is not okay, and there isn't compassion for that. So that is tough love for these victims that become shadow men, that then become the predator. That there's no compassion for. That is where you need to do the work. So I see these shadow men. I see them navigating life in their masks, people pleasing women, telling them what they want to hear, coercing them into going out with them or having sex with them or being with them, or men, whoever your affiliations guide you to. I see it in the realm of partnership, and I see it in the realm of sexual partnership, long-term partnership. And there's these shadow men prey on women, the intuitive women, the loving women. So the women that engage with these shadow men, they have their own shadows, and their own shadows tend to weave in and relate with these men because they also have their own wounding. They also are people pleasing. They also have their own masks that they've hid behind. They're different masks, because women are a totally different species. But regardless, there's this dance that's happening. And what I'm seeing out there in this dating community, I'm not in the dating community, but I watch it through friends. I'm a study, I'm a researcher. So I research, and what I see happening is a lot of predators out there, a lot of predators in the dating world. And I think what had happened with these wounded shadow men is they had to learn to self-soothe. And in their self-soothing, it's drugs, alcohol, porn, sex. Those are the self-soothing methods: drug, alcohol, porn, sex. In 2020, OnlyFans hit the world, hit the internet world, and it brought a whole new element to porn, and porn addiction skyrocketed. Sex trafficking also has been skyrocketing and is the #1 business in the world. So there is a pandemic, there is an epidemic in sex addiction. And it is only growing every day. There's 100,000 new followers of OnlyFans a day. OnlyFans, I think, is really dangerous because it really trains men. It's just a whole psychological training. It's a personal engagement. It is betrayal to your partner. It is addicting. You hit that, and if you are an addict, that you've trained yourself to be an addict in response to your shadow child, then you've become addicted to dopamine hits in whatever way that surfaces, whether it's addiction, porn, sex addiction, any addiction. The dopamine hit gets you out, pulls you out of whatever bad feelings you're feeling in the moment with inside. You get an eject button with your dopamine hit. And so we're in this world where these men are engaging in this way. They're contorting this beautiful gift that Spirit has given us of divine union through sex, contorting it to something really dark and very ugly, and really just harming our souls, really actually going against God, because He's given us this beautiful gift of divine connection through union, through sex. And I'm noticing this. So this is a topic that we will talk about in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different angles, and then how it affects these poor, wounded shadow boys and how it makes them shadow men. The shadow boy is the victim. The shadow man is the predator. And that can look a lot of different ways. It can be as little as masking who you really are to your partner. It can be as lying. And then it can go as far as, sex addiction, where you're having many affairs, or addicted to prostitutes, or however that plays out, addicted to porn. However that plays out in your life, where you are not present in your own personal life as a father, as a parent, as a partner. And this is a pandemic and an epidemic, and it is attacking unions, and it is attacking men. And this is the time to speak about it. It's the time to name it. And what I am naming today is a shadow man. The man that wears the masks, the man that hides himself, the man that people pleases, the man that has many addictions or one addiction and hides it from his partner. The shadow man can be not in partnership and creating this false self to all those around him. Betty likes to be flirted with, so I'm a flirt when I'm with Betty. My wife likes a monogamous relationship, so I'm not a flirt around my wife. The child likes the happy dad, the one that plays with him, so I'm going to do that even when I'm agitated. You're constantly not allowing your own emotions to surface, so you can people please those around you, so you can feel validation, so you can receive love. And oftentimes you have a lot of self-hate because you were unaccepted, unloved, neglected, beaten, all the things when you were a child as your shadow boy. And then now you are a shadow man, and you still hide all your emotions, and you still don't let your real self be seen oftentimes. And I think when you first decide to attack these shadows, to do the shadow work, there's going to be times where you need to protect those around you from the anger that surfaces from within, from having to hide yourself, from the abuse that you've received, from the neglect, from the woundings that your poor little child, the divine child made in the image of God, had to endure. There's so much compassion. There's so much love for that beautiful man. I want to wrap him in my arms. I want to tell him it's okay to be himself. His beautiful, loving, non-predatory self that he came into this world as. We want to uncover and unearth all the pain and suffering and masking that you had to do to survive. We want to love that human being, that soul, that pure divine soul deserves love. But first, you need to dive into your shadows. First, you need to clean up your actions. First, you need to stop lying to yourself and those around you. First, you need to stop putting your needs first, regardless if they harm those around you and those that love you. This wounded child, this shadow man, yearns to be loved. It's his deepest desire to be accepted because he was not accepted as a child. And we as women feel that need. And gosh, we want to wrap you in our arms and just love you and just nurture that child so that they can become the man that we see he can become. But as what is happening in the process of you asking for love and acceptance from women that are beautifully open-hearted, and then you go in and you start pulling out your masks and your lies and your addictions and your harmful ways, the shadow man appears. And the shadow man takes on the predator archetype. And now this beautiful woman that has come to you to love you, to honor you, to witness you, to see you, to accept you, all the things you've asked for, then becomes the victim. And you are now the predator. You are now that man, that father, that mother that harmed you. You've now become that person to someone else. So this is a kahea, a call out to our shadow men who deserve to be loved. Yes. But it's no longer acceptable for you to live in this place, not taking responsibility for your actions and going around and being a predator. So I'm today labeling you the shadow man. And that term is going to continue to exist here in this place. And any day that you're ready, we hope that you step out of this archetype and step into your higher vibrational self, to all that you are meant to be, to the beautiful, divine, masculine man that we know you are. Shadow man becomes the divine masculine. That is the most beautiful story any of us divine feminines could ever hope for. Dear Lord God, mahalo kia kua, mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for your presence, for your wisdom, and for this divine channeled message, and for the name calling of the shadow man. We are calling this into the surface, outside of the shadows, so we recognize this archetype as he preys upon the innocent around him. And we kahea to you today, Lord Spirit, that you help this shadow man heal his wounded self, dive into his shadows, unearth them, bring them to the light, and within the light, darkness cannot exist. Help our men heal, move them out of the shadows, move them into the light, give them the strength and the purpose to do this, so that they become the divine masculines that we know they can. Mahalo kia kua, mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Thank you for listening to my message. Praise be to God.